the Silver Stock Analyst. Today we have Steve Stackill from Whitehorse Gold Corp joining us today. Steve, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Garrett. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Excellent. This is important for Silver Stock Analyst subscribers because they're basically New Pacific Metals has been one of our favorites. They are distributing Whitehorse Gold as a stock dividend or a stock spin. How would you qualify it, Steve?
It's a spin out of right now. Whitehorse Gold is a wholly owned subsidiary of New Pacific Metals that holds the Tagish Lake gold project up in the Yukon. But through a plan of arrangement, a spin out of that is imminent and a concurrent financing. And we've got our application process in for a listing on the TSX Venture Exchange, which we're hoping will come up in fairly short order here as well.
Okay, so is there a date for the spin out yet?
The date of the shareholder vote at New Pacific is September 30th. And then there's some of the legal aspects that just have to be finalized, assuming there's a positive shareholder vote on that front. So early October is kind of the tentative date, so just as a ballpark. So kind of in the first week or so of October is when we're anticipating the spin-out.
Okay, excellent. Now, each New Pacific share, if you own one share of New Pacific, you're going to get 0.1667. That's like a 1-for-6 share dividend. That's correct, right?
That's in the ballpark, correct? Yeah. There's 20 million shares of Whitehorse Gold that will be distributed to New Pacific shareholders, and currently New Pacific I think has about 152 million shares issued and outstanding. So yeah, roughly about 7-to-1 ratio, I believe.
7-to-1. Is that 0.16 with a 1-for-6, the 0.1667 ratio? Is that common amongst the spinouts?
It's purely a fact of the number of shares that were issued to New Pacific as part of the asset acquisition to take it out of New Pacific. So it's part of, effectively, if you want to call it, the acquisition cost to acquire the asset.
The reason why I asked that is because I was looking at the Silvercrest metal spinout, and that was also done at 1-for-6, 0.1667. That just happens to be coincidence, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, just coincidence in that aspect, yes.
Okay. Now, I wanted to learn more information about Whitehorse Gold, but one of the other stock dividend spinouts that we got previously in 2015. First Majestic bought Silvercrest Metals in 2000. First Majestic bought Silvercrest Mining in 2015. Each holder of Silvercrest Mining received 0.016667 shares of Silvercrest Metals. Silvercrest Metals traded at about 10 cents for about 6 months, and then it exploded higher, and it's been going higher since. And the return on that stock dividend spin out, if you held it the whole time, is 100x. It's one of the great value generation stories of all time. Not all the stock dividends perform as well as that, but it's free, and there is an opportunity for that to happen again. So I just want to talk to Steve so that you're familiar with the Whitehorse Gold Corp, and that we can learn more about it, and you can hold the shares, in your portfolio and just enjoy the ride. So, Steve, one of the things that attracted me to the Taggish Lake is the high grade. 8 grams a ton?
Correct, yeah. If you look at currently there's an indicated and inferred resource on 3 deposits on the Tagish Lake gold project. We're sitting with just over 600,000 ounces in all categories at about just over 8 grams of gold equivalent. And that is mostly gold. There is some byproduct silver in one of the deposits, but gold by far constitutes at least 90+% of the equivalency that we see there. So it is very much a high-grade gold deposit, and really the rationale, if you look at it, it's unlocking that value in this project that was probably kind of orphaned or sitting fallow within New Pacific. It wasn't their flagship asset. It was really had no value in their portfolio. So the thought process was to spin this out into a public company to crystallize some of that value. And it is a compelling project. From this season, just being on the ground. It's a lot of pluses on this project, like you mentioned. High grade gold resource. a lot of infrastructure. So it provides a great springboard to launch a brand new public company.
So what mines are nearby?
Really not many. It's located, we're in the far southern Yukon. Yeah, we're probably closer to some of the mines in northern British Columbia than we are to some of the mines up in kind of north central Yukon. But we like the project location. Certainly that's one of the big pluses we see is just infrastructure and ease of access. We don't need helicopter, we don't need airstrips on the project. It's just over a 1 hour drive south of Whitehorse off of highways and major roads. For example, from Vancouver International Airport, it's a couple hour flight. So in just over 3 hours, I can be out of Vancouver and standing on the project. So that's a real plus in terms of, logistics and infrastructure just being on that project area.
Nice. Who operated the mine when it was in production from 1986 to 1988?
Back then, it was a company called Total Energold. Back in the late 1980s, it was back at that stage. That's when a lot of the oil and gas companies were kind of active in mineral exploration throughout North America, and it was only a portion of the property back then that they operated from the Mount Skukum deposit. I think it was the Total Petroleum out of France and Egypt Oil out of Italy were the owners, and they optioned it to Total Energold that took it into production back in the late 1980s. And pretty compelling, even for a small scale mine. Over a couple of years, they produced 79,000 ounces at an average grade of 13 grams per ton. So pretty respectable grades, good recoveries. The operations went quite well. It's a small mill that was there, and the mill is still on site, and it's actually in surprisingly good condition.
Wow.
I think a lot of not only just the footprint, but a lot of the components are likely to be usable by us. Once we get to a production decision over the next few years, as part of our plan here as well.
What the average grade out of the mine was 13 grams a ton, but the resource is only 7 grams a ton?
Within the resource, obviously there are higher grade sections. So they targeted the lake vein, which was the main vein that they operated and exploited from their underground operations at Mount Skukum. There are parallel vein structures there and other structures. And there again, the Mount Skukum that they mined is the smallest of the 3 current deposits that we have on the property. It's really only about 10 to 15% of the overall resource. But certainly there's room to grow that as well. But you can see, a lot of good results have come out of that project area. Even if you look at 2011 when New Pacific was doing their drilling there. Some pretty compelling drill results. Certainly we'll be focused on that. We are currently actively exploring the project, and we will have a modest drill program commencing over the next few weeks. So we will be generating some news, and ideally, hopefully, that will coincide with as we launch as a public company over the next several weeks.
What are you going to be drilling? Are you going to be drilling existing workings, or are you going to be?
We're going to be testing the modest program we have. It's going to just be kind of a 2,000 to 3,000 meter program, primarily focused on Skukum Creek and possibly targeting at Mount Skukum as well. And what we want to test is the main hosts that are there that constitute the bulk of the resources. There are some gaps, so we see an opportunity to upgrade some of the inferred resource, hopefully to a higher confidence level, but it is open at depth, so we see the opportunity to maybe to open it up at depth and along strike, ideally adding some tonnage and ounces on that front as well.
Okay, interesting. I'm looking at your timeline. So, you're going to be spun out. You're going to drill for a year or two. And then,
correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So the program this year, you can see where we are on the Gantt diagram there. But we're kind of into the coming up on Q4. Really, this year's exploration program was a modest program, but it's really giving us the focus and data to really develop a much more advanced program for next year. And of that, drilling will constitute a much more significant portion. Okay. And really, the goal of that is to come up with an updated resource estimate kind of at the end of next year, compiling all the data that we pull out of both this year's and next year's program. And components of that should include, or will likely be including, some underground refurbishment and engineering studies as well. One of the nice things is there's almost 5 kilometers of underground development in place. Some of it requires some refurb, some of it's in reasonably good condition as well. But the goal there is it'll allow us to do some of that drilling we can do from underground, and that will obviously expedite and make our drilling much more efficient. You're not fighting topography as much. It is very mountainous terrain, so if we're able to go underground, it cuts down the amount of waste rock you have to drill. But that being said, given the historic drilling that's occurred on the project, there's a lot of good drill roads and drill pads that we can reutilize going forward. So it really gives us a nice, like I said, a springboard to launch multifaceted aspects of our exploration program.
Right. Is your the spin out and the raise, is that going to be combined, or is it going to be a spin out, then you're going to do another raise?
They'll be concurrent, effectively. So we're doing a seed raise. It'll be the seed raise is roughly about $6.5 million Canadian, but a portion of that will be paid to New Pacific as well. Once again, that's part of the asset acquisition cost to take the asset out of New Pacific, in addition to the share issuance that we did.
Okay.
What we anticipate is we will be doing a secondary raise once we are listed. Ideally sometime in Q4, obviously kind of timing and market dependent. Okay. But certainly we see, the opportunity is there. I think we're in a very strong precious metals market, and we are coming to market with what we think is a pretty compelling gold project of high grade in a good jurisdiction.
Yeah, I was just speaking to the Pure Gold guys yesterday. Pure Gold in Red Lake?
Yep.
Yep. And, they've got inferred resources of like 8 or 9 grams a ton. And that's one of the highest grade. When it is in production soon, it's going to be one of the highest grade mines that's in production in Canada. And this one, it ranks right up there as far as grade. And grade's the most important factor for me when I look at projects, because grade leads to low cost and profitability, and that's what Silvercrest Metals had. Silvercrest Metals had amazing grade, and it still does, and that's what led to its strong performance. And
the old adage, grade is king. It always is. Absolutely.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm looking at the picture of the mountain. You got some mountains on property with some veins going right up it, huh?
Yes. Yeah, you can see that's Skukum Creek, and you can see the portals that have been developed there. So those go underground. So they've actually quite a significant amount of underground development that's in place that really allows us access to get underground, to look at the structure in 3D and to do some of our engineering studies, and ideally do some of the drilling from underground to help prove up these deposits. But really, we see a lot of opportunity. And I think it's probably important to mention what we see is not just these 3 deposits on the property. There's a number of other gold mineralized zones that that currently don't have any delineated resource, but really compelling grades. Surface outcropping grade gold grades of significance there. Visible gold occurring in sections, a lot of historic work going back to the early 1900s, but really many of them haven't been drilled. So we really look at this as a camp. It's not just 3 deposits. We have 170 square kilometers. It's a very significant land position, lots of targets. So we really see opening this up as a new gold camp. So we will be focused, not just on the existing deposits, but really testing some of these other occurrences on the property. So we have our work cut out for us on this one. There's lots of targets for us to be focused on over the next couple of years.
How big is your property?
It's 170 square kilometers.
Wow. Okay. And yeah, you got a little success here. Maybe it's a new district.
Certainly that's the way we look at it. There is a lot of there's a lot of smoke around and outcropping mineralization. And I think historically, when the mine operated back in the 1980s, the property package was actually fractionated by a number of small junior companies. The predecessor company to New Pacific's ownership, Tagish Lake Gold Corp, consolidated the district, or this camp in the 2000s, prior to being taken over by New Pacific in 2010, 2011. So they did a good job, and certainly provides us with a large property package to really give it a good exploration push.
What sort of mineralization is it? Is it kind of like narrow vein, high grade?
It is kind of narrow to medium vein, so it is kind of it's a volcanic terrain, so epithermal vein structures, quartz carbonate, adularia type structures. But there are different mineralizing environments. That is primarily the Skukum Creek and the Mount Skukum are mostly vein hosted deposits. The Goodell is more of a structurally controlled system. There's a big fault system through Goodell that runs almost east-west. So yeah, lots of targets to look at here. But everything we're looking at will be underground, which is ideal, just given that it's lower impact and much easier to move forward from a permitting and environmental aspect. And it's worth mentioning, our team that we've assembled here has been, a fantastic team, a lot of strong technical depth, specifically with our CEO, Kevin Weston, mining engineer with a very extensive operating experience throughout the north. He's worked on a lot of mines, built them and fine-tuned them, the Minto mine up in the Yukon, Silvertip, and a number of other mines. Tim Kingsley, our VP Exploration, a very strong structural geologist, a lot of experience taking projects from discovery to production as well. So certainly we're going to use this depth that we have on our team to move this project forward, ideally getting to a production decision, hopefully over the next couple of years.
Okay. Excellent. You're already off to a great start, having 300,000 ounces of a resource at 7-8 grams a ton. Yeah, it's a great start. It'd be nice to be able to build that.
Absolutely. Ideally, I think there's good potential to grow that. Obviously that'll be, that's going to be up to the geology and the drill bit, but certainly, there's, we don't see any indication that these systems are cut off along strike or at depth. So that's, the pressure's on us now to deliver, and really that's what we're going to be focused on over the next couple of years.
Okay. That's great, Steve. I just wanted to, let Silver Stock Analyst subscribers know that if you own New Pacific, you're going to be getting this share spin-out dividend for free. It's going to start trading hopefully in October next month if it's approved at its meeting, which it should be. For every the split, what they estimate it to be, you're going to get 0.01667 shares of this company for every share of New Pacific. It's free. You're going to get in your account. Hang on to it. This project has great grades like Silvercrest Metals. Silvercrest Metals did 100x. I'm not saying this one can do it, but it's got good grade. It's in a good jurisdiction, and it's a free dividend. So hang on to it. Is there anything else you want to close with, Steve?
I think that kind of covers it. It's been, like I said, we've had, our initial season has been very successful so far, and we're going to be launching into drilling very soon. We've had great support from the territorial government, from the Yukon government, and local stakeholders as well, with the local First Nation. We've been very proactive in engaging with them, and they've been very supportive of what we've been doing as well. So we're very excited on this project, and stay tuned. As we launch as a public company, we anticipate we'll be able to start to deliver a pretty constant stream of news coming from this project.
Excellent. I will be watching closely, and hopefully talk to you soon. And thanks for joining us.
Garrett, pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Steve.